All right, folks, and we are live. Thanks for joining us today. We started like a minute late, but I think that's okay. If this is your first time joining us, or if you're returning, welcome. Glad to have you here. This is Open Office Hours, hosted by Headway. We do this every week on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central, and we take the time to answer your questions, listen to the problems that you're facing, whether it's on a project, within your team, or with an idea that you're tinkering with. We're here to help you get unstuck and reach your goals this week. So, just to kick it off, my name's Jacob. I'm the marketing and brand manager at Headway. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Kinetic Bear. So I help. Sometimes I'll help folks with any like startup marketing questions, stuff like that. But otherwise, I usually help with things like this, like Open Office Hours, our YouTube channel, helping with our online events, anything on our website, so blog content, marketing campaigns, all that kind of stuff. That's what I do at Headway. So I'll hand it off over to Andrew, and he can introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. So I'm Andrew Verboncouer, partner and CEO at Headway, and really work to um, find clients and help people that we aligned with figure out how we can help them.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions coming on YouTube yet, so we'll jump over to our Reddit questions. So this first one is about startup funding, and they want to know, is it necessary? So the question is, do all startups need funding? And more specifically, do tech or software startups need funding? The person asked this because I've been working on a project for a while now. You could say it's education software. I coded everything myself besides an API from Google. The API is pretty inexpensive. I finished coding. So once I finished coding everything, the only things I'll have to pay for is hosting and the API. I plan on outsourcing some of the HTML CSS work. But with all that cost added up, it should be under $3,000. I understand with funding, I can hire people such as marketing, software engineers, etc. However, I'm confident I don't need to hire anyone until it gets bigger, and I can hire using money I make from selling the product. However, it feels like I'm looking at it wrong or something because almost every single tech startup I've seen requires funding and have people willing to fund the project. But like I said, my costs should be well under $3,000. So why should I take funding, or am I looking at it wrong?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of there are more emerging funds out there that fund bootstrappers, and so that's kind of what you'd be considered as a bootstrap startup or somebody who's not really taking on.
Oh, it looks like we lost Andrew's audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you
All
go.
right. Somebody that's not necessarily taking on venture capital where, so it is, it's more common than you think. There's a lot of businesses that prefer to.
A little bit of technical difficulty.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I think we should be
You
good.
okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be good. I think that there's a lot more companies that fly under the radar that aren't talked about that grow slower and don't really take on venture capital. They use the returns of the business to then invest back into it and grow it at a more sustainable pace. And so, is it necessary? I think it depends on what your vision is for your product and your business. Where you want to go is a big part of how you'll get there. And so, if you're looking to build, more of a lifestyle business that maybe supports you and a couple other people, you probably don't need startup funding, right? You just need a handful of customers that really believe in what you do, and you can focus on serving them well and, make a good living doing that. If your goal is to ultimately, have an impact where you touch 1 billion people, with your idea, or you're looking, maybe you have financial goals or goals to go public, and ring the bell at the NASDAQ or something, like the fuel you need to get there is going to be a lot different. And so as you think about where you ultimately want to go with your business in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, where you want to go is going to determine, whether or not you need funding. So a lot of startups will take on growth funding where they have a specific product, they maybe have a handful of customers, and they're looking to scale their growth. Some of that depends on market conditions. Let's say you have 5 competitors out there that do what you do. It becomes a land grab to figure out like who can reach our competitors the best. How do you become kind of a market leader in whatever you're offering. So the answer, to many things, and this one is it depends. Depends on what you're trying to do. I think the reality of it is the product is only one part of it, right? Like, and we talk with founders about this all the time of if you had your product tomorrow, what would you do? Right? And many people think that the product is really what's going to add the value, but it's the progress that you make for the people. So, more money might help you, do more marketing. It might help you, hire a sales team that's going to be able to sell. So depends on where you want to go, and what your path is to that. So I don't necessarily think there's a right or wrong way. I think there's a lot of successful companies that have been bootstrapped and grown slowly and grown to multi-million dollars per year, where you don't need venture funding, to get to that point. So I think the question comes back to you is, it's only necessary if the growth that you're seeing from your customers and the revenue you see from them isn't enough to fund the vision you have for the product.
Got it. Yeah, and yeah, it depends on like how fast you want to move, right? If you're comfortable taking it slow and retaining ownership of the entire organization and like everything that happens, I mean, nothing wrong with slow and easy. Slow and steady wins the race, basically. Awesome. All right, we can move on to this next question. This one I thought it was kind of an interesting topic because I think it's something that most people don't think about right away. Maybe they're always wondering about the business aspects, but they don't think about the personal aspects of building a company. So the question is about founders of families. Is there any way I could do this without sacrificing my ability to be a good dad, husband, and provider? This person shares, I have a wife and 2 kids, and I have a steady, well-paying job with great benefits, and I have some savings, but not enough to sustain my family for 2 to 3 years with minimal income and not end up in a reckless financial condition. Am I insane to even consider founding a company? And is there any way I could do this without sacrificing my ability to be a good dad, husband, and provider?
I think this goes really well with that first question of, do I need to go out and take a big swing and take a big risk and leave my job? And, if you tune into some of the stuff Gary Vee says is, can be polarizing for people. But if you turn into what he says, like, you don't have to leave your job to do it, and you don't have to hustle, and give up your family life to be able to do it. I think it's really, this is a scenario where you want to be crystal clear with who you're serving, what problem you're going to solve for them. And then before you take that leap, try to replace, 3 to 6 months of your income, by doing pre-sales, by bootstrapping it, to a certain point where you now have more confidence, you've de-risked it, versus going out on your own and trying to go through this messy middle where you're not generating revenue. And some people, I think are thrust into this situation, with the past year in the pandemic. They maybe had some runway and weren't really looking to start their own thing, but then were thrust into founding an idea because they were furloughed or they were laid off with COVID and everything. So I think if you have the choice, identifying an opportunity and, a customer you want to serve, the problem you want to solve for them, and really try to get traction, I think is going to give you the ability to do it without sacrificing your ability to be a provider. And also, to be a good dad and a husband obviously takes time. And I think, even when you have established companies or even, with your job today, I'm sure there's struggles with that. So I don't think that struggle goes away. It's all trying to, understand, being able to recognize when one of those things gets out of balance and being able to correct. And so starting slow for you as a founder, I think is important, but being really pointed with where, what you're bringing to market and then trying to sell it before you go and take that leap to de-risk it as much as possible from the provider standpoint. So yeah, I guess that would be, I'm just looking at the question again, I guess that would be the advice is to go slow, establish, a landing page, establish, once you understand the problem, the landing page, a product offer, and really try to sell it and test it in the market before, you go take a leap.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Did you want to say something else?
I was just gonna say, like, from a timing standpoint, like, from other founders that I've talked to, you know, that are doing this outside of their 9 to 5. It's either, waking up early mornings and kind of setting expectations with your family, your wife about your, daddy duties. Like maybe your wife can, you know, do morning time instead of you, doing it before work, or you set a day or two, a night or two a week where you're working on your idea. And so you start to time box it and know, rather than thinking you're going to work on it every night and all weekend, really try to focus on, where you can, um, I don't know, go deep and, align with your family around expectations around, when you're going to be available, and say like, hey, Monday nights and let's say Thursday nights, I'm going to be working on this new thing that I want to start. And those are your only two opportunities to work on it. So then you can be really ruthless with yourself around what you prioritize versus what, the other thing that happens with a lot of founders is, they stay with their job and then they try to do all of the things every single night, where they're trying to balance family and work on their startup and work on these things every single night together. That balance won't happen, and it won't really feel like it's balanced for anybody involved. So if you can identify a couple nights a week or even one night a week to get started, where you can focus on it, I think that'll be the most valuable and feel the best to set expectations with yourself and with your family, just from a tactical standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, all right. Well, I think we can. If anyone watching on YouTube has any questions for us today, be sure to throw them in the chat. If you have maybe a bigger question, you can actually get invited. We'll send you a link, and you can join us on the call, and we can walk through the problem that you're facing. You can share your screen, all that kind of stuff. So if you're joining us and that's something you're thinking about, be sure to share your question in the chat there, and then we can send you a link to go further if we need to. But otherwise, we'll jump into this next question. Is it too late for a co-founder? So this person shares, I'm a non-technical founder designing a universal gaming system for life navigation. I've invested $17,000 of my own savings, acquired market insight, brand strategy, business model, product design, market penetration strategy, and actively market and seeking interest from investors and users. The product isn't developed, it's conceptualized. I have a broad understanding of the tech space, just not specialized to a point where I could build it. Finding a co-founder now is compromising to our speed to market strategy. Moreover, I believe anyone else that joins moving forward deserves a smaller equity share without a co-founder title. So what are your thoughts? And all feedback is welcome.
Yeah. So I would say it's not too late. I mean, obviously, you don't have a product in the market yet. You are in that early stage. I think it depends on how much you value the position you're looking for and what skills that person does or doesn't have that are going to be essential to this business being successful in the long term. Is it somebody who's going to be asked to put in some of their own savings and some of their own capital? Is it someone who's going to be asked to do things over and above, what a early stage employee, would be asked to do? Are they going to be taking ownership over parts of the business that, you're not competent in, or aren't specialized in? And so I think there's no, tried and true reasoning for this. I think it really depends startup to startup and what's best for each founder. But I think, if you want to incentivize a co-founder really owning it with you and being along that journey with you, more equity is going to be better, right? More upside, especially if there's no salary, at first. Like, I think it's very hard to offer somebody some equity without offering them, traditional compensation. But if you are, as an example, if you are paying somebody full market rate, for their position, less equity, I think, makes sense. But if you're asking them to make an investment and maybe take a pay cut, or even, a total cut down to zero for equity, or they're helping nights and weekends, I think that needs to be compensated that way, where you're on this journey together, and the upside really is what you're both, betting on. So I definitely get, it feels like a lot of the work has been done, but, without any customers or without a product or a way to deliver that, I would say that, the journey is still beginning and it's still very early. I've also seen startups that have maybe started in the wrong direction with a product, took a step back, redirected, and found a co-founder, later. And so I think can never be too late to find a co-founder, especially as you pivot early on between ideas and between markets and really what your business does. Have seen all flavors of it. So not too late, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Yeah, so if anyone watching on YouTube right now has a question for us, be sure to share it in the chat and we'll be able to help you out today. Otherwise, we can head on to this other question. This one's about a product roadmap template. And this person shares, my friend and I are building a hardware startup, and everything that we want to achieve, our next steps to do, we keep in our heads. Considering the fact that we're building a product by ourselves and just proved our concept and built an MVP a few weeks ago, we didn't need documentation for our plans because we're talking to each other every day. We know, so that it's all in their head. But it's time to prepare us for accelerators, incubators, and start thinking and start looking for any outside investment. So I'll need to create some kind of roadmap. I'm a product designer in the past, but I want to switch to a project manager role. Could you share any product roadmap or a template that you think is best with me if possible? I heard that roadmaps in Excel are good, and it'll definitely save me time and help a newbie product manager to start with right templates for the right product in the future. So it looks like it's all in their head, and they're trying to figure out how to get in front of their faces in a document so they can move forward with external partners in the journey.
Yeah. So I think this is difficult. Are you looking for a technical product roadmap, really, right? So there are kind of two versions as I'm thinking of it. Like one is more technical in nature, where you have exactly, the nuts and bolts, the specific user stories. There's lots of tools out there that help you build a roadmap, like Pivotal Tracker, Jira. We use Stories on Board for releases and roadmap planning. But then there's also kind of the other side, which is higher level and more of a strategic roadmap, where you're trying to sell the vision of what are the main outcomes that you're creating with the funding that you're getting, or the accelerators and incubators, like what key milestones and really milestone roadmaps are you creating that a lot of those more tactical things roll up to. So I think in your case it sounds like you're more trying to um, outline the strategic level of, hey, this is what the next 18 months look like for us, and then the next step of that really would be, from your perspective, um, to show your MVP of like what main, packets of value are you delivering along that roadmap. And so a lot of times, like, you'll want to align your sales process and what you're doing with when new features and functionalities available. So as you build your MVP, if there's key things, let's say, you initially had a web app and you're enhancing that web app over the next 3 months or the next quarter, and on the bottom you would be able to add something, that would say like companion mobile application that builds upon this previous, learning that we implemented in the web. And so it could be more of that strategic roadmap that helps you storytell rather than one that helps you, manage the work of the team. And so I don't have any specific ones that come to mind other than some of the tools that I mentioned. I'll try to pull up some examples here. Yeah, let me pull up this view real quick. And I just did a quick search here for uh, some roadmap templates, but just to talk through, this is one that is definitely more high level, but gives a timeline view of, hey, this quarter, next quarter. And then they go through, in addition to milestones, which, you might include in your deck here in this top part, they have new features that support that. They also have integrations that support those features, stickiness, notifications, like how they're adding triggers. So this is like a multi-layer roadmap of how they're thinking about building out their product. This, on the other hand, is a roadmap that's a little bit more based on swim lane and based on progress of the actual work. So they're planning this in a team in like a Kanban style board with some of those things. Again, here's one that kind of plans it from a different angle rather than, this first one that is new features, infrastructure improvements. This is planning by discipline or, by contributing member of the product team. So they have milestones, they have product and what they're doing, they have UX, UI, in dev, kind of all sectioned apart. So there's a few different versions, and I think this is for RoadMonk, so that might be a good option. We've not used them before.
Yeah, I dropped the link in the chat there for folks.
Nice. Yeah, and then these are, these are by epic, essentially, I'm assuming, or by sprint, where you start to plan out the individual stories and things for, that lead up to those releases. You can see here they kind of have this, waterfall type approach for some of these elements here, where they're doing things kind of in sequence. Things start at 1.1, they're all here, and then we move kind of into 1.2 across, where they're starting to add releases. We need to wireframe it, set it up, user acceptance testing, SEO plan, sequential. So I think to answer your question better, it'll depend on what your goal is. Is it just giving a vision for what's going to happen across a feature over time, or is it really helping align your team around what needs to be done, and hopefully based on that you can figure out what the right tool is for you. But a lot of there's also like Team Gantt. There's other charts that you can start to build up that give you a Gantt chart. Obviously Excel is one option. I don't see any. So roadmap template. There might be some good easy templates. Yeah, AHA is one that we've used with other teams too. They have some good roadmaps. Oops. Yeah, we've used this across some teams where it goes into more details of your ideas and really prioritize features. So like gives you a better idea of different epics and different things, and then be able to drill down into it. So there are infinite ways to skin a cat in this scenario. Like depending on the level of detail you're looking for and the level of interest, it's going to depend on what you need. But hopefully these give you some ideas around roadmaps that you could start to create.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's been just interesting to see all the different new tools that have been coming out just over the past 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, just to help people do that part of the process better. Because he had mentioned or they had mentioned Excel or like a spreadsheet, and I'm like, I feel like there's better tools out there that are a little bit more easy to use and understand and share with others along that way, a little more presentable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I don't think we have any more questions today from Reddit, but if anyone here on YouTube has a question for us before we wrap up, be sure to ask. But right now, we just want to mention that we have actually another live stream tomorrow with John Zaratsky. So Ryan and Robert from the product strategy team here at Headway will be. Well, there you go. I was going to share it, but you beat me to it. We'll be talking with John, and he's the author of the Sprint book and Make Time. So they'll be talking, about design sprints, just maybe a little bit about early phase discovery, product validation, stuff like that. So they'll be walking through a deep dive with him. It'll be a fun discussion, and if you're joining us on YouTube, you can actually ask questions in the chat. So right here on our YouTube channel, if you subscribe and turn on the notifications, you'll get reminded for the stream tomorrow. It's the same time as today at 11 a.m. Tomorrow Central. And then we also have an event with Clint. Andrew, if you want to bring that back up, next week, Clint will be talking about storytelling in the design process and how you can create alignment across your team. So it'll be really, really cool. Just another way to think about how you can approach keeping projects on track and making sure that everyone's thinking kind of like in the same mindset when it comes to bringing a new idea to life. So really excited for that. So yeah, that is also on YouTube. Otherwise, you can go to headway.io/events and register, and you'll get reminded in your email, and you'll get a link to join us on YouTube. So it's always good to do that. And then otherwise, just wanted to share that we are hiring. So if you're a designer, developer, or product strategist, and you're looking to like for new opportunities in your career, we're hiring, and we're looking for amazing people like you to join our team. So if you head to headway.io/careers, you'll be able to find all our open positions. You can learn more about them, and hopefully you'll apply, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. So I think that's all for today. I don't know, Andrew, if there's anything else you wanted to share. I know we're planning for stuff in May, in June, and beyond. We just had our quarterly planning for what we want to do over the next 3 to 6 months. And we're excited to kind of get some of those things planned out and get created, and it'll be great for everybody here. So I think that's it, though.
Yeah, sounds great, Jacob. I don't have anything else. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and hopefully we'll see you next week, and take care.